It's time for The Local with your host and realtor, Katie McKinney.
Hey guys, Katie here, and today I've got Kyle Reynolds with us here on the podcast. Kyle, thanks for being here.
Hey, Katie. Thanks for having me.
I know it's a little bit strange because you're not in the studio with me, but happy to have you. I know, like I said, you're a busy guy, so thanks for taking the time. I know, obviously, there's a lot going on in your world right now, isn't there?
There's a lot going on. Things are moving quickly, and things change every day. I mean, this afternoon we got clarification on a certain piece of guidance that changed how we're viewing our essential and non-essential staff. So It's ever evolving in uncharted waters.
Uncharted water. I think that's like that should be the quote of 2020, right? Uncharted waters. For me too,
Actually,
you know.
I might use a different descriptor. We did a book study on a book by Tim Elmore called Marching Off the Map, and it's about delivering education in the 21st century to an ever-changing group of kids, and the idea that we're marching off the map in a world economy that's different than what we're used to. So maybe it'd be better if we said marching off the map. Marching
off the map. I like that one too. I like both of them. Uncharted territories reminds me of a little bit of a shark. You know, like sharks, and I can't swim very well, so, you know, maybe that's more, sink or swim, I guess is what they say. But yeah, either way, we're gonna get through this. I know, with probably a better appreciation for just everyday life. I feel like, and able to go out and shop at places without gloves and, do different things. I think we'll have a better appreciation anyway. I always try to look at the positive, and I know you do too. That's why you're an educator and part of the education system. So,
well, and I agree. And I, to look at the positive of this, I mentioned the book that we did the book study on Marching Off the Map, which is one of the many books that we've looked at, one of the many staff development pieces that we've done over the years, talking about how we can modernize education. And that's a big upside for what's happening right now, because I've got teachers all over town who may or may not have really kind of stuck their toe in the water of some of the digital initiatives that we had over the years. Maybe weren't very motivated to do that, but today, obviously, they're very motivated to get into the technology and figure out how they can deliver instruction meaningfully to their kids. And they want to, because they're desperately wanting to have some sort of interaction and connectivity with their students. So that's a real positive. I think it'll end up really modernizing the education system across the country.
Most definitely. I definitely think that's a positive. And, my mom is an educator. My sister's an educator. And I've talked about them several times during this because, even if they don't want to, it's kind of forcing them to. And for them, like you said, they do it because they love the students and they love they love what they're doing, and it is for the students. And so whatever it takes to get them to be able to be in front of their students is what they're going to do. And I feel like the Woodward Public Schools is a great example of that, doing whatever needs to be done for the students to succeed and for them to feel like, they're getting the education here locally. So, Kyle, I know a lot of people talk, or you talk on, different radio shows, and I mean, you're kind of all over the place, and it's amazing that you are so involved. I know we're in Rotary together as well, but for a lot of people, they may not know exactly where you are from originally. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're from originally and how you got to Woodward?
Well, I got to Woodward before I was 1 year old.
Oh.
So I can't say, I wasn't born here, but my parents got me here as quick as they could.
Yeah.
that was just because my dad had been in the Air Force, and he was coming out of that, and they were living in Midwest City at the time when I was born, so I was actually born in Midwest City.
Okay.
But they moved back to Woodward just shortly after that. In fact, my grandparents on my mother's side, my great-grandmother actually settled with her two brothers 8 miles north of town out by where the iodine plant is. It's a real interesting story about her brothers building her a house.
Oh.
And then she would travel to Moreland or Quinlan and teach school during the week and then come home and work at her little place.
Oh,
so
neat. Yeah.
I grew up at 2304 Maple, right behind the Sands Hotel. I lived there until basically way until I went to college.
Neat.
And I actually didn't sell that house until my dad died a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was at college, I ended up getting married to my high school sweetheart, Stacey Oblander, who was a graduate just a year behind me. She was a class of 87. I was 86.
Mm-hmm.
And then the hospital offered her a position as an occupational therapist here, brought us back, and I finished my teaching degree at Northwestern and started teaching at Woodward during the summer of 1995, the year my son was born.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat. He's 1 year younger than I am, I guess. Your son is. He's a dentist,
thanks for
right?
reminding me of that, I'm old.
I'm just saying. What is he going to school for? I can't remember. Or
He's second year at OU Law.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, I was thinking it was law. Excellent. Always good to have an attorney in the family, soon to be attorney in the family.
Absolutely. I've got an attorney and a nurse.
There
so,
you
yeah,
go. So. You're just surrounded by good people. Exactly. Well, neat. Okay, so obviously, what was your first teaching job here at Woodward? Because I know it's English, right? You were an English teacher as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was an English teacher, and it's funny. I was working for my father-in-law. While I was going to school, and we were out over east by the landfill, bucking hay, gathering up hay bales, and I get a call from the school from Mr. Garvey that they needed somebody to teach summer school, and I'd been desperately trying to get my foot in the door because I wanted a job. He's like, "Can you come teach summer school? Nobody wants to do it." And I'm like, "Heck yeah!"
Better than baling hay.
Half days and air conditioning, and so
exactly.
That's how I got my foot in the door. And I thought summer school would be. He ended up hiring me full time for the fall, and he told me later that the reason that he was so quick to hire me was I didn't send anybody to the office during summer school. So I'm like, well, that's easy. You just tell the kids 3 strikes and you're out. You don't get your $40 back.
That's right. That's incentive there. Incentive. Excellent. And how long did you teach English here at Woodward Public Schools?
So the year that I started teaching, we passed a bond issue that networked the high school, and we put computers in every classroom on the teacher's desk. And so I kind of got into technology.
Okay.
And in 1999, the superintendent at the time created a technology director position, and it was just something that I developed a passion for.
Yeah.
I mean, before that, I really wasn't a nerd up until that point. And so I followed that passion. It took me out of the classroom in the fall of 1999, and I did that for 10 years. It was just really fortunate time for me to be involved in that, and we had some really big things happen with the federal E-rate program starting to fund things, and some bond issues that allowed us to do some really cool things, and just begin the process of innovating and figuring out how to modernize instruction.
Right. I mean, I feel like we're kind of going full circle, don't you? I mean, it's kind of crazy
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's what I know. We're obviously going to talk a little bit about that as well. But the technology piece, I didn't know that you were part of the technology instruction or the the technology piece of the school. So I think it's very interesting that here we are, kind of at a crossroads with education. In that you've got this huge pandemic, affecting our education system, and here it is, technology that's bringing curriculum to the students. So, and what year did you become superintendent?
So after 10 years of IT, I got demoted to assistant principal at the high school.
Okay.
There's a joke there. I wasn't really demoted.
Yeah.
I did that for 4 years and was deputy superintendent for 1 year.
Okay.
And then was named superintendent. It's been 6 years ago, so in 2014.
Yeah.
And that, like you say, it's really interesting how things come around full circle, because here I've been advocating, pushing for technology in the classroom for so many years. And the first month that I was superintendent, we had just passed the bond issue. And one of the first POs that I signed was $1 million PO for iPad.
Wow.
And so that was kind of a dream come true. You know?
Oh, definitely. And now are you able to use, not necessarily those iPads, but iPads and laptops? That's one question I'll have kind of down the road. Are you able to use a lot of that technology that you've been implementing over the years and advocating for during this time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's just, we've been pressing for the last several years to integrate technology into our curriculum and how we deliver an instruction and how students are able to participate and respond. And like I said, sometimes it's a little bit frustrating. You feel like it's going slower than you want it to.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we've put a lot of equipment in place. We have a lot of we have Chromebooks for all of our secondary students, grades 5 through 12.
Excellent.
And they all either have them at home or they had an option to have one at home. And so we had all these things in place, and now it's just fully engaged.
It's engaged.
And it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's necessary right now, which I think, there's always a difference between the elective and the necessary. And like you said, it's kind of pushing people toward that, you've been advocating for. So can you tell us a little bit about, obviously we are hearing, like you said, the news is changing day after day when it comes to education, our community, Woodward County in general, with different things going on. What is kind of y'all's game plan? I know that's a really large question, but what's the game plan on the distance learning platform?
So distance learning, and you broke up just a little bit on me there, but I think I got the gist of it. Distance learning is kind of an overarching phrase for what Superintendent Hoffmeister and the State Board referred to as our continuous learning plan.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people hear that and assume that generically across the board means technology-driven instruction. Well, for our secondary kids, for the kids in grades 5 through 12, it is going to be education delivered electronically or digitally through primarily the Chromebooks and the Google Classroom platform. But for our younger students, we can't guarantee that we have equity with our younger students as far as having internet access at home and having those devices. We weren't prepared to be in a position to check out the iPads that are used as classroom sets. So that distance learning now becomes, you can accomplish that by sending home, like we are, 4-week learning packets of materials and activities that they can work on with their parents. Our teachers have a lot of means of communication at their disposal. We have a piece called School Status that they can call, text, and email parents through a platform that's kind of a third party, so they don't have to give out their cell phone if they don't want to.
Right.
And of course, teachers have been communicating with their parents all year long through a variety of platforms. So it's just those ways that we can keep kids engaged through the remainder of the school year. And we're going to do so in a way that we hope to enrich their education, but by no means is what's happening from here out going to be punitive.
Right.
So in other words, there's not an assignment a kid's going to turn in that's going to lower their grade from where it was back on March 12th.
And I think that's important because, unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, we've got, the different, like Facebook, and everybody wants to chime in when it comes to learning in the education system, which is fine. And if it's their student or their child, I get that. But there's a lot of parents and people going, well, I'm not going, if I'm especially a healthcare worker, like a nurse or someone like that, that's going to work every single day still, that's an essential worker, they're saying, well, I just don't have time to, teach little Johnny how to, do these different homework lessons or whatever. What do you encourage or tell those parents who are struggling with that balance?
Well, first of all, and again, this time period that we're in is kind of interesting because it was thrust upon us, and so there's not a mandate or an edict that goes out to parents that says this is what you will and will not do, and so there's obviously some wiggle room. And at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that our kids are still progressing and moving forward the best that they can.
Exactly.
And like I said, that's going to look a little bit different from household to household, but we hope that we have the lifelines out there and the connections out there that we need to help parents the best we can. By the way, you mentioned the healthcare providers, and we just sent word to Alliance Health Woodward to make sure and let them know that we have some available openings at our daycare at Boomer Kids Club in case there's anybody in the healthcare profession that's an essential worker that needs that daycare.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you guys for that. I know it's a group effort, but that's great to hear because you worry about the people who are risking their lives for for us and for our safety and health, and also the people who are going through and are diagnosed with the coronavirus to their kids, they're having to go back home, and life is not normal by any means, but it's something that they have to tackle. And when you don't have the child care piece in play, or just kind of what a lot of times school provides, that supervision as well. That's excellent to hear. I think listeners will definitely be appreciative of hearing that as well. What are your thoughts on, obviously, the teachers are they're essential, right? Most of the general, secondary, and elementary, and they're considered essential employees, aren't they?
Right. School employees are considered essential, generally speaking, and of course we've got some classifications that we've had to kind of break things down into essential staff and non-essential, and then we've got some essential staff that are going to be exempted for medical reasons, for whether it's their age or physical limitations related to the risk factors with coronavirus. Generally speaking, they're essential now. The great thing is our certified staff, our teachers, can do the bulk of what they need to do without leaving their home. I know many of them will be there curbside to deliver the 4-week learning packets that are elementaries when parents come through to get them. But we obviously have the option, if they're uneasy or uncomfortable doing that, we've got other people that are willing to step up. And just a tip of the cap to our transportation department and child nutrition. We served over 1,200 meals yesterday. Wow! And those folks have been preparing the meals and then delivering them out to 9 different locations, and they're on the front line. They're taking their precautions with masks and gloves and stuff, and we're encouraging all of our folks that are showing up to collect those meals to utilize the social distancing. So they've really been on the front lines the last 2 weeks. Oh, yes. Well, I saw a bus out delivering lunches today, and I just thought that's amazing to see. You always hear education and small business. I think education being, number one in a lot of ways, the backbone of a community, and the way that, students and families grow and develop. And you're seeing this over and over, whether, it be the lunches or the teachers just kind of not taking over, but they are helping and assisting through this process. I think it's really it's not fun, because none of this is fun, but it's very interesting and encouraging to see. Teachers don't do it and educators don't do it just because of whether it be the money or the different things. They do it because they have a passion for students and for the well-being of people. So I think it's really a positive thing to be able to see this over and over again, whether it be the lunches or the curriculum and that sort of thing. So Kyle, I have one last question that I feel like you will be able to answer very, very well, and it's something that I ask most of the people that we have on. What is one of your favorite parts about being part of Northwest Oklahoma? Well, and obviously, like I said, I've got some pretty deep roots with our family connections in this area, and this is something I kind of started reflecting on as the coronavirus pandemic started rearing its head and coming around. Just so happened I glanced over at my bookshelf one day and saw a copy of The Worst Hard Time, which is actually a book that former Senator Bryce Marlett had given me. And you start thinking about the Dust Bowl era and the folks that were living right here where we are right now, years and years ago, and how they were able to survive those extremely difficult times. And I think that's something that's in our DNA, that it's a unique combination of rugged independence and resilience and relying on one another. Yes, and you just help your neighbor without question. That's what I call our pioneer spirit. It's part of our high school motto. Yes, our students become lifelong learners with a pioneer spirit. So I think that's what makes us uniquely Northwest Oklahomans, and I don't know, that's just part of why I love calling this part of the state my home.
Yeah, I would agree with you. You see it even, with our businesses, whether it be our restaurants, again, education, our small businesses, they're out there busting their tails right now, just trying to make, whether it be making ends meet or, providing assistance to their neighbor, someone, and even somebody they don't know, and
right.
I think that's something that we can take away from this marching off the map category that we're in right now. And Kyle, I sure appreciate you being on the local here, and I think everybody enjoys hearing from you. I know you're kind of, like I said, a little bit of everywhere, but I truly do appreciate everything that you invest in the community, our schools, and our students here. So thanks so much for being on.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure. It's great talking to you, Katie.
You as well, Kyle. Have a great day.